about here's what's existing in terms of the infrastructure, looking at the runways, looking at the road systems, looking at the fact that there would be considerable demand for distribution and the supporting infrastructure that goes along with that. Working through the committee, working with the citizens in that area, we came up with a plan, a long-term 50-year development plan that capitalizes on the runway that's there now. So we are now in the process, as the council member had mentioned, you know, we're sitting in a meeting and JEA is talking about infrastructure. Well, that infrastructure will support the east side of the runway. And so it does work. My hope is that in future leadership that they will see the benefit of having this committee and keep it in place, because it does take the opportunity to combine resources from the different components within the public infrastructure. So.
That's a very important point, to try and take the politics out of planning side of development is extremely important. Well, and I'll let Nancy speak to that from Jacksport's position.
It's interesting when I talk to some of my colleagues in other port cities, and when our senior management travels around the world, part of what we hear is a little bit of envy that we do have a community and a city county leadership that understands how important the port is to the region, and can the agencies can talk to each other about how important the port is, work together on plans to support the port, or at least just be vocal about supporting the port. You have no idea how many cities there are that potentially their ports could be the center of their economy, yet there's infighting about you know, who gets funding, or you know, who says yes to the funding. And they really do admire the fact that our mayor has been an outspoken advocate for port growth. They admire that our city leadership again and our citizens welcome this growth. Sure. And they really do, despite the discussion of the challenges, whether it be, you know, the challenge of traffic, which is uppermost on people's minds, or concern about security, which also comes up when you're talking about growing a place like the port. They do support us because they understand, and that's a significant march forward ahead of some of our competitive cities. So now if we could just get the funding piece together, which is part of why we're all together talking.
Right. And that's going to be a serious challenge, obviously, sure. Even with the talk of an economic stimulus package. And I promised I wouldn't throw out the hardball question of when do you think the economy is going to turn around, so I'll stay away from that question. But more importantly, as we look at our development and the economic impact that this can have on the Jacksonville community, as we wrap up our show this evening, is there any topic or any area of concern or something that you just like to get out to the public? I think this would be a good point to kind of address that.
I'd love to, because I think that what we're seeing in Jacksonville and in Tallahassee are elected officials who want to do everything they possibly can to spur growth, to stimulate the economy, but it can't cost any money. One thing that they're really looking at is removing regulatory barriers. And for example, there's some talk in Tallahassee right now about removing concurrency for a certain amount of time. And I promise you, say if Tallahassee decided to remove concurrency or fair share impact fees for about a 2-year period, shovels would go in the ground immediately, because people would know there was a certain time frame that they could get work done and it would be able to be cost effective. The numbers wouldn't be upside down. Right now people are walking away from projects because regulatory barriers are causing them to do that. So there are things that are happening. I believe that you're going to see action in Washington, D.C., but what you're going to see in Tallahassee and in Jacksonville are another great opportunities to stimulate the economy and put people to work without spending tax dollars doing it. It's just basically removing regulatory barriers. That's critical. I think that you're seeing all of the people in Tallahassee talk about it and wanting to move in that direction. So hopefully we're able to follow through with some of those thoughts.
Very good point. If I could turn to John on this, I know we're working similarly with concurrency issues at Cecil Field and even on the aviation side. Can you talk about that just a little bit in terms of how it impacts projects in our system?
it's a real cost, and if it's something that we can at least suspend for a period of time, I think it is a great incentive to, like the council member said, is to get shovels in the ground. Otherwise, it is a cost of doing business, which actually goes into that equation. And right now, most of these deals would look, upside down, and a developer is not going to do that. So if we can figure out a way to give some temporary relief, similar to what Congress is looking at now in the economic stimulus processes, what things can be done from a regulatory standpoint that will allow this much money to be infused into the economy at a very quick rate. And it's the regulatory processes that really are the big hurdles. So if there's a way to suspend that, I think we would be in good shape.
Very good. I'm not going to, let me make an editorial comment right now. Nancy, I'm not speaking for Jacksport, but on behalf of the Jacksonville Aviation Authority. I know it's coming up for a vote in City Council very soon regarding the cruise issue, and I'm not going to speak to that, but from the Aviation Authority's perspective, we are in support of the cruise industry in Jacksonville because of its economic impact that it has.
Yes.
About 25% of the cruisers, those that will cruise out of Jacksonville, actually fly into Jacksonville. So the benefits to the Jacksonville International Airport, our concessionaires, the hoteliers on Airport Road are very important to the north side and the development in that area. So the Aviation Authority is in support of the cruise industry in Jacksonville.
And I might point out that there are other items that are intangible that you can't put a figure on. How many people might visit Jacksonville to take a cruise and come back again because they liked what they saw? How many will say to friends and neighbors, we went to Jacksonville, you'd be surprised at how pretty their river is or how beautiful their beach is. And then those folks come and visit. And they fly in, they spend a night in our hotels, they spend money in the region because they do. Whether or not you want to believe that a cruise ship passenger comes, gets on, gets off and leaves, even if they do, which they all don't, but even if they did, they need gas, they need to stop for other items that they forgot, they most likely need to spend a night in the hotel, maybe they flew in. All of those things do contribute, but again, there's that intangible benefit to having our name out there as a tourist destination, as a city that is a successful home port for a cruise ship or two. I say it's wonderful to be connected to a business that makes people happy, that they like, that they enjoy, that Americans are flocking to more than ever. So there's that, again, that intangible benefit to the airport to attract more tourists to this region, to become a tourist destination even more in the future, and have other businesses that grow up around tourism. We had the Hotel Motel Association folks tell us that they saw a downturn in their business during our gap in cruise service and a corresponding uptick when our new ship came in. So yes, the economy was starting to act difficult at that point, but the fact that they saw an increase when our new ship came says a lot to me. And again, we're talking about our chartered mission, jobs and opportunity. Cruise brings dollars into this community. It helps support the port's progress in all of its businesses. And that is ultimately what's behind our valiant effort to try to relocate the terminal.
Well, at the authority, we can certainly turn to a similar business or situation, the Gator Bowl game, and we get a lot of feedback from those that fly in for the game. What they see for the first time, a lot of first-time visitors to Jacksonville are amazed at our hospitality, the city, the downtown, and they talk about coming back just from seeing it for the first time. So the intangibles that you speak of are, I think, very important as we continue to stimulate growth around Jacksonville.
For each other. Together.
Yes, and there's a great relationship. I know when Super Bowl, although it's just surprising to me now. It's been
so many years
ago that we hosted Super Bowl, but having the ships ported here to supplement hotel rooms was a benefit. So it's been, we're going to get there. I think this malaise in the economy will, nothing is permanent, and when it starts to turn up. Another issue I know that you're working with on the committee, Councilman, are issues that are maybe not specific to the airport and the seaport, but do you see other issues that your committee may address that would have a positive impact on Jacksonville, on economic development or business in the area?
Sure. We have one issue on the agenda right now that has to do with local preference to local engineers and architects and PR firms that do business with the city. So all of that plays into how the local authorities, the independent agencies, how they do business with people they contract with. So hopefully the city council can set some clear guidelines, best practices that we can hand over and let the boards at the different independent agencies look at, and hopefully we can all adopt a very similar plan for doing business. I think it's very important when you're doing business with a city government or with one of the independent agencies that we do everything we possibly can to steer the dollars towards local companies, to keep those dollars moving in our economy over and over again. We talked a little bit earlier about the trickle-down theory, and that is, you put a contract together for a company that's locally headquartered or a local firm that is going to spend money in the local economy, and before you know it, that person is going to buy a swimming pool in the local economy, and that person is going to be able to purchase a home in the local economy. Mm-hmm. So I think it all plays together, and it's very important, and it all ties in with the Port Infrastructure Committee, because jobs are jobs, and we just want to continue growing them. And there are very few cities that can grow jobs at a time like this, and I believe Jacksonville is one of them.
Mm-hmm. Very good. I think we just have a couple of minutes left on the show this evening, and I really want to thank you all for joining the Airport News Show. I think we have some serious challenges in the economy. I don't think everybody knows that we do, and I think each one of you touched on the fact that communication amongst ourselves is going to be key as we move forward. I think we can do more, or have a more of an impact the more that we interact with each other, and we can make sure we're focused and we're on the same page. A couple last minute words from any of the authorities as we wrap it up. John?
There is a Confucius saying that in the middle of chaos is opportunity. I think in the middle of this economic, whatever you want to call it, I think there is great opportunity, because it gives us a chance to put some infrastructure in place before the big growth happens. I think it's less expensive at this point in time, but I believe that if we do it now, we get it done, we will be in a much better position when the economy picks up again.
Well said.
And
Nancy?
we have a little time to breathe when I talk about traffic figures. If those are slowed down a little because our cargo volumes might slow down a little, then what that does is it really begs us to take that time and use it wisely to plan and, as you said, to be ready. And it's not the time for to back down on aggressive investment in infrastructure and in port and airport progress. Now is the time to continue so that we are ready.
Yes.
A lot of great information. I want to thank you once again for joining us this evening on the show, and look forward to future work with you, Councilman Davis, on your committee, and looking for great things from both authorities as we make challenges in this economy. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to coming into your homes next time.